And happy Saturday to everybody. Here we're at the live show, and we are live from Sun and Fun and Safe's booth, which is in Hangar A. If you're around, stop by. I'd like to talk to you if you're around. And let me get my presentation here set up. We got a lot of people around. The booth is big, and you can see the background there. And I've got my own dedicated space here. Let's just leave it there. Okay, it's fine. So anyway, if you're new, welcome. If you've been here for a while, well, you kind of know what's going on. We expect to have between 400 and 500 today. Right now we got about, how many do we have? 309. So we may be a little less than 400, but around there. We'll be talking about multi-engine stuff. I'm going to go through the format of the show here in a second for you. If I look around, it's only because we have a couple people guarding the front here so that people don't get lean on things or look around, pop their head in the camera, that kind of thing. Although if you're a Power Hour member, you're glad to come back here and take a look. It's fine, no problem at all. So anyway, so we're not live from Miami Beach. We are at Lakeland Sun and Fun, and we're here just today. I was here yesterday for a few hours, and then here today, and then we'll be gone tomorrow. So not staying around for that. So what we're going to talk about today is multi-engine stuff, particularly for multi-engine flight instructors. So I think, and even though this is sort of flight instructor centric, I think if you're considering a multi-engine rating or something, these are some points that you'd be looking out for. Like these are the hot points, I would call them, the things that let's make multi-engine training as safe as possible, right? That's what we're looking about. So anyway, I'm going to show you the format of the show. Move this out of the way. The best way, anything I talk about will be in the chat. So in the chat, you're going to see links to things. And when Wings Credit it becomes available, you're going to see that in the chat. So that's where you're going to be looking for, okay? So keep that chat open. And then this is the format of the show. So I'm going to show you that right here. So I told you many times, we're live at Lakeland Sun and Fun. And we're in Safe's booth in Hangar A. And that's about the middle of the second row over from the end on one of the ends. So you can find us easily, big old booth. Let's move on past that. The first thing we're going to do is a live show. And the first hour does have Wings Credit. The only way to get Wings Credit is to be able to join the login, okay? At the very end of the show, there'll be a link. There'll be a link. Okay. So, okay. Okay, still not smooth on the audio. Let's see. We'll see what happens. We do have a pretty good size connection, so it shouldn't be a problem. In the second hour, we're going to do open mic. Okay, it's okay for me. Okay, Lee. Thanks for checking up. And the open mic will go for a long time. Now, I'll join in occasionally, but what I can do is I'm going to have to give up this, space here because we're kind of hogging it for the Power Hour, right? And then I'll go on phones, and then I'll just pick a moderator for a while, and I'll jump in and out. I think that's the best way for me to do it today, but that's what we're going to do. And then monitor the chat, please. Links and other info are going to be in there. We're going to release a couple products today that you want to get on that deal, because if you're a pilot in training or CFI in training, there's some goodies coming on later. And then the third thing is the last couple of things is about 30 minutes past the hour, we take a 5-minute break. It's not a break. I'm just going to talk about our stuff for 5 minutes. It's not long. And then after that, we go right back in the show and close it all out at the top of the hour seamlessly. This is Power Hour 283. A lot of them have been under the bridge here. So watch for Wings Credit. It's going to be in the chat at the end of the show. Okay, now we're going to move into what we all came here for, multi-engine stuff, right? And we're going to talk about getting Checkride ready for MEI. We're going to get you focused hour here on getting prepared for some of the things that aren't obvious, I would say, or I find even some of these things don't get even trained. And, multi-engine flying can be dangerous. All flying can be dangerous, but multi-engine light twin flying in particular can be dangerous. And so we want to hit these hot points, and I got my security team out here in front. That's kind of funny. But good. Okay, let's see. So did you know that you could do your multi-engine instructor rating as an initial CFI? Oh, that's the first thing to say. Did you know that you can do your very first flight instructor certificate as an MEI or as a CFII. You don't have to go the traditional route of airplane single engine. So if that's the case, then there's a ACS for that. It's the same one as for the single engine. Single and multi are together in that. And you can do it as an initial if you want to. There are some advantages to doing that. And it cuts the content down of what you need to know a little bit. So that's okay. And the Checkride is relatively short in the twin. There's no instrument tasks in it whatsoever. So that's good. So you don't have to have a CFI airplane single engine. You can do this as an initial if you want to. Just want to make you aware of that. We'll show you in the ACS and stuff where what you end up doing. And then so you'll be tested on the CFI ACS for multi-engine, which is the same ACS as for single engine. They've combined in the same thing. So now you will have to do the FOI, the fundamentals of instructing, as part of that. If you do it as an additional rating, it's already been tested on the FOI, so you don't necessarily have to be tested on the FOI again. So that's one thing. Okay. Now this is then the most typical route is you can do this as an additional rating. Right off the bat, I answered questions. Well, good. Okay. The most typical route is to do this as an additional rating. So you already have a CFI, airplane single engine, you're adding on multi. So this is the ACS down there. And in the ratings task table, in the appendix of the CFI ACS, you're going to find the required tasks if you already have the certificate, if you already have the flight service certificate. Now, if you don't have that, then you have to do all the tasks that are required for the technical subject areas and for multi-engine stuff. So you'll have to do that. But if you already have a CFI, then this is what you're going to do. I reprinted just here a little bit of this. It's a fairly short Checkride too. It's usually less than about 4 hours. There's no IFR in it. The flight portion you should be able to finish in maybe an hour or so, hour and something. It's not long. So this is the ratings task table. You find it in the appendix of the ACS. And I highlighted, if you have airplane single engine, then you don't have to do any of area of operation 1, which is the fundamentals of instructor. And you can see a lot of areas here don't have nothing required. So for example, because you're in a multi-engine airplane, you're not going to be doing chandelles, lazy eights on power. You're not doing any of that. Even if you do it as an initial rating, you don't have to do any of that. So there's many instrument tasks in here you don't have to do. So you can scan down through here, and there's an asterisk which said, look at the notes in each task to see what has to be tested. So as you scan down through here, you go back to the ACS and the areas of operation here, and you can find out what these tasks are. But just to know, you don't have to do everything. And that's quite handy, right? Really handy. Okay. Got it. Okay. A lot of people chiming in. So now, if you do this rating, there's a task that you've never been tested on that's included in the multi-engine instructor test. Surprise! There's something you've never done. All the other things you've done, except for maybe the endorsements and stuff, but all the maneuvers, all the stuff you've done, everything there except for this thing. What is that? It is a demonstration of effects of various airspeeds and configurations during engine and operator performance. Now, there's a mouthful. All right, that's task C in the multi-engine section, which is area operation 13, task C. We're going to come to it. I'm going to explain what that means. Okay, I'll explain what that means to you or to us, so you can get a flavor for it. Right? I used to call it the multi-engine when people needed 50 hours or so of multi-engine training, so they could work for an airline, which they don't need that anymore as much. This used to be a great way to build that kind of time because it takes sort of a bit to do this. Okay, let's do a series of drag demos. We called them drag demonstrations. That's what they're called. They were called in the past. So let's move on and see what this is all about. Here's the skill. This is the task C from area of operation 13. And this is what it is. And then I just reprinted only the skills section. By the way, a copy of this presentation is in the chat. And we can put it in there multiple times if we need to. Okay, so we've got that going on. A lot of people around. So it's basically a demonstration. It demonstrates the airplane. There's something called the VYSE speed, which we've talked about in the previous power hours. It's the best rate of climb on a single engine, and it's a blue radial line that's printed on the airspeed indicator. And so that is the best rate of climb on a single engine. And so what this whole thing does is it proves out to you that the best speed to use is in a single engine, if you need to climb, is VYSE. And it results in the maximum rate of climb when clean and achieving zero side slip. So that's what it's going to demonstrate. So I'll explain what it is here and explain kind of how you would do it. And if I miss a step, it'll be just because I missed a step. So I don't think I will, but here's the idea. So we first start off with the airplane at single engine, and we put it at blue line at VYSC. And so we do that. And then what we can do is we can then begin configuring the airplane, put the landing gear down. And then we target VYSC. Each time we're looking at the vertical speed indicator to see what our rate is. And you'll notice that it goes down, right? Then we'll put some wing flaps out, extend those out. You'll see that the VYSC speed or the vertical speed goes down, sometimes negative, can't fly single engine. Then we can, we have the propeller windmilling, we can do that. And then once we've done that, we can go to the blue line speed and go 5 knots slower, 5 knots faster, and see that we didn't really get any improvement. And then finally, we can clean it all up, go to VYSC, and then we can bank three or so degrees into the good engine to eliminate side slip, about a half a ball out. If you think about that, that'll eliminate side slip. And then we'll see the VSI will start to increase. And so now we're blue line, everything clean, 0 side slips achieved. And then what we can do is we can, at that point, say, well, let's run 5 knots above blue line. Let's see what happens, VOASC. Then look at the vertical speed, and then go 5 knots below. And then you'll see that in each of those cases, it goes down. So so there's that. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. That's a new maneuver for you. Its single purpose is to show you that VYSE in 0 side slip in the clean configuration will give you the maximum rate of climb on a single engine. So that's really what it is. So we'll slow it down here just for a second. I feel like we kind of blazed the trail there through that. And there's some chat going on about what we're going to talk about here after the break, which is this info document. I'll put it back in the chat every so often, so everybody has it. But in fact, I put it in. Well, I don't want to do it now because you might read it while I'm talking. So it's another CFI tip is don't give people things to read while you're talking. They'll just read it. If it's something interesting, they'll read that. They'll have you in the background. You won't be the center of attention anymore. You won't be the presentation will be what they're reading. Be that. So let's take a look. All right, now as we segue in to the rest of this, we've got just under 400 people. So we're 395. So that's about what we expected. I actually have 2 more now. So they're plowing in. So that is the task you've not been tested on. And now we're going to talk about MEI specific training. So what does that mean? That thing's that maybe not done in the multi-engine side of things that your normal rating, that is now going to be done and need to be taught during MEI specific training. So we're going to talk about how to cause the airplane to feather and secure. You as a multi-engine pilot already know how to do that, but this is what the MEI has to know about that and some safeguards for that. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at restarting after feathering. This is an issue. Some of them don't come out of feather after we've feathered them. So we'll talk about that. And failing engines, we're going to talk about safe practices for that and what the FAA's guidance is and what my own personal guidance is around that. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about failing an engine prior to half VMC speed on takeoff. So that's a required task. I got to fail the engine on you, but not more than if you've achieved less than up to 50% of VMC. And I'm going to tell you how to do that safely because that can also lead to a airplane going off the runway pretty quickly. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the VMC demonstration. Potentially one of the most dangerous things that we have to do is this demonstration. And so I'll tell you how to approach it as a new MEI. And for those of you who are just don't know what this is yet, you'll at least have an idea of, okay, this is a hot point, and I need to be sure that I understand I'm briefed really, really well on this VMC demonstration, okay? Talk about that. And as we plow forward, we're going to talk about light twin performance considerations, which you're not probably going to like that too much, but you're going to wish I had better news for you. Oh, but I don't. But anyway, it's if it's a rating we need, it's a rating we need. There's risks in aviation. So let's talk about number 1 is feathering and securing. So now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, when multi-engine airplanes have the ability to, when you shut down the engine, there's a propeller lever. You're going to see the quadrant in a second. And if you pull it all the way back on that bad engine, it's going to take the engine. It's going to make it look like the propellers make it look like that. So basically, the propellers are no longer flat, which they'd be windmilling then, creating a lot of drag. This is going to improve the performance considerably if we do that. So we want to make sure that we understand how to feather and secure an engine, right? Because as an MEI, you're going to be directing that. You're going to be directing that whole show, right? So let's talk about that. Let's move ahead here. So first thing is, we're not going to be doing this below 3,000 feet AGL, and not unless we have a suitable airport and runway system nearby. So I'm going to be looking at the weather, and I want to be sure that we have adequate ceiling, like a good ceiling. I want to be sure that the runway that we're going to be going to, if we're going to go there, is there's not a huge crosswind, or if there's preferably to have multiple runways if I can get it, right? And then I also want a long runway. Because if something happens, we can't get it out of feather or whatever, we're going to have to land single engine, a real single engine. So we want to be sure we have a wide runway, we have a long runway. Now, I understand in certain places that you may not be able to get that, right? You may not be able to get it because that's just where you are. But, we're talking, let's try to optimize what we can, right, for all this stuff. So that's the first thing. So not lower than 3,000 AGL. Now, also, when you shut down this engine, you're going to be shutting it completely down. You're going to be turning off the magnetos, the fuel, the mixture. So it's going to be shut down and feathered. And when that happens, the airplane is going to cool quickly. The engine is going to cool quickly. And it's hard on the engine for it to cool quickly because you've got a lot of airflow up there. Temperature's probably less than at 3,000 or 4,000 feet. It's probably cooler. Oh, it is cooler unless you have a temperature inversion. And so we want to be good to the good engine. So I'd want to close the cowl flaps on that engine, and I would do that myself unless if the student missed it. But I would be sure that we leave this engine shut down for a short period of time. I don't want it to be shut down more than a minute or so, and we can demonstrate everything we need to do in a simulated condition. But it's important. We have to do this for certification, so it's required. It's a required task, and it's also required in training. Now, some people say I only let my airplanes do this once during training. I don't know. I think we need to have good training. So I think simulation is good in this part, but we're going to have to shut an engine down, I think, more than once for this to be comfortable to you and secured. Because on the test, you got to do it once. On the flight test, you have to do it once. And then you don't want it to be like uncomfortable too. Like, oh, I've only done this once in my whole life before. So we want to kind of be on that. Okay, moving on. We talk about restarting after feathering. Now I have something down there. It's a prop governor, and constant speed units have a propeller governor. We talked about that last week on the show on systems. But multi-engine airplanes have one other adjunct to it. This piece, some of them do. It's called a accumulator, and its whole purpose is that when we feather the engine, so it's going to close a valve here, and it's going to trap the pressure in the system, the oil system, which is changing the propeller blade. It's going to trap some pressure in there. And so the idea of that is when we go to unfeather, we can open that valve by going to the unfeathered position and the prop levers, and that extra boost of oil pressure will come in there and help twist the blades into the unfeathered position. Now, that's only going to be found on a training airplane. You're not going to see that in airplanes because we shut an engine down for real. We're not going to bring it out of feather. We're going to keep it in feather. So it's only in training that we're going to see, they call them unfeathering accumulators, right? So, but we have to be mindful of this. So, because some airplanes don't have it, like the Seneca 1 does not have an accumulator, unfeathering accumulators. But the Duchess, the Seminole does. So they've got that. And the Baron, for example, I don't remember if it does or not. I don't think it does. But at any rate, there are airplanes that have it, others that don't. So that'd be something to look for. So do you have one? And it's a one-time deal. So when you elect to bring it out of feather, when you say, okay, I want to unfeather now, I don't want you to milk it out of feather and let the pressure go slowly. I want a big old blast. So I want you to push it right up there. I don't know, push it like it means something. Push it all the way up there. It's a one-shot deal. So don't be slow. Don't be slow. Like that. Hey, don't be slow, man. Move it. Now, the rest of the multi-engine stuff I'm going to tell you, be a little slow. Nothing much happens except with a VMC demonstration or when we get close to VMC or stall during VMC. That really requires any kind of immediate action. So most of the things you need to stop and consider. Get control of the airplane, number one. So control the airplane. The second thing then is to take your time a little bit to understand what you're going to do. Be diligent and be thoughtful about what you're going to do, what you need to do. Most of the time, it does not require an immediate sort of really a bunch of, like, I see people go, mixture, prop throttle, gear up, propeller. It doesn't have to go that fast. It can be just diligent mixtures, propellers, throttle, gear up, flaps up, identify, dead foot, dead engine. Okay, that's the left one. Verify, throttle on the left engine coming back. Make sure it doesn't make any difference. If you got the wrong one, you'll see a change. And then you go, okay, that's the left engine. There's my feather. If I elect the feather, it's right here. That's the left one. Left foot, dead engine again. Now let's bring in the feather deacon. So that's the speed. We don't have to, yeah, take a breath. So he says it right. John's saying, take a breath before the action. Exactly. Stop any adverse yaw. You can do that right away. And most of the time, as long as you're not slow and single engine, you've got some time. Okay. So let's just make sure that we're not rushing it. And then if we can't if we can't get this thing out of feather by using the unfeathering accumulators, then we're going to have to use the starter. And airplanes, of course, that don't have the unfeathering accumulator are going to need to be started with the starter. So this is most likely going to be a hot start, depending on how long you've set this thing down, if you fuel injected or not. So you may have to give it a little, clear the lines there with the booster pump just for a second to get any vapor that's in there out of there. So you may think about using a hot start procedure. That would be my recommendation for that. But depending how long it's been shut down for. But even for a few minutes, it's still pretty much a hot start. Okay, let's move on past. And so the other thing we want to do is be mindful of the RPM when we unfeather, because when we unfeather, we have the propeller lever all the way to the front, and so it's going to want a redline, right? And so we're going to have to be on it to make sure that once this engine catches. And the propeller is turning and coming out of feather, that we don't redline the engine. So as the engine catches, adjust the prop levers, the prop levers, I think it should say levers, to avoid an overspeed, okay? And so that's the number one thing we want to do. So let me move on past here. Just checking our booth situation. Donna Wilt is here. She basically wrote the, now, no hate mail to her. She wrote the aviation instructor's handbook. So she's in the booth, and she taught at FIT. She has a PhD in education, and she was an instructor at FIT. She's also a pilot. So anyway, she's here, along with some other people. Aaron's here. You'll see in a second. Okay, now if you're unable to restart, you've given it a bunch of goes, and you can't get it out of feather, you're going to have to land single engine. So yes, you're going to have to declare an emergency, or you should, so that people are prepared for you. Now, you don't necessarily need priority because you shut it down, not because it was on fire, you shut it down because you shut it down. And there was a training for it. So that's one thing. You don't have to really rush it. You can say, well, let's give it a little bit more and see if we can get out of feather. But at some point, if it gets to a point where you kind of think, well, the weather's coming in or this coming out or whatever it is, then oh yeah, speed for a restart. That's a good question. I use a fast speed. I got to tell you, I dive for in a Seneca for 130, Duchess about over 100 for sure over that. I don't bring it out. I don't use my one shot at a slow speed. So I let the airflow from the speed help unfeather the prop. So I'm going to dive. But of course, we're going to get lower, right? That's the other issue. And we probably can't regain the altitude. So no less than 100 knots. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everybody's about right here on that. So a good point to bring it. I didn't bring that in this presentation. Now, for failing engines, we got to do that too. It's 2 minutes to the break, by the way. So coffee time. No, I'm not for me. I'm going to be talking. You use mixtures above 3,000 feet only. So what I mean is don't feather the engine, or not feather. Don't shut down engines with anything other than throttles below 3,000 feet. Above 3,000 feet, you can do by mixtures. So there's that. So And then I have some ideas about that as well. Because a lot of the time the student sees the throttle quadrant. And so they already see your hand going up there. They know something's going to go on. So what I had was I had a clipboard, and I would put the clipboard in between where the throttle was and the prop levers and the mixture. And then above that, I would fail with mixture. They couldn't see which one. Whereas if I do that, they can see which one. Which I don't know. I would think again about that if I really wanted to do that. But that's one thing we could do, right? And with throttle, you got to reach over there because chances are they may have their hand on it. You got to bring it down, put your fingers or two fingers, like two fingers behind the knob, and pull it down that way, right? Because their hands on it. Right? So you got that to deal with. Fuel selectors above 3,000 feet. There's a lot of controversy on, on this using fuel selectors even at all. So fuel selectors sometimes may not. Oh, we're getting a video. That's great. Sun and Fun staff. They want to see us doing our stuff. So okay. So anyway, yeah, thanks. So fuel selectors. I'll leave it at your discretion. It's one of those hot points, and I'll just let you decide what you want to do with that. I have my own points on it. I'm sort of Hobie Tomlinson. If he's in the room, he will talk a lot about it. So that's it. And slowly with throttle initially. And what I mean by that is when you start training in a multi-engine airplane as an MEI, you really want to go slowly. Okay, you want to be able to gauge the student's reaction. Is what you really want to do. Okay, it's break time. Yay, that went fast, didn't it? That was kind of like lightning speed right there. We have a lot to cover. So let me tell you what we're doing at CFI Boot Camp. A couple things. One thing is we are releasing our commercial pilot ACS Smart Study Pro course today. We already pre-released it. And what it is it's me going through, it's an audio course, me going through the ACS for commercial pilot through all the knowledge areas, all the skill tasks and all the skills for every task, and then voicing out what you need to know about it. So it's preparing you for either your trip to the airport for that lesson, or it's preparing you maybe for a Checkride at the end. You could use it for that. Each of those tasks have a PDF companion guide with notes and various things in there. Some of them are short, but others are a bit lengthy. And so that we release for, usually those courses are 200. They're going out today for 100, but half price, but only for a few days. We don't really do it for long. We also did the other thing, which we thought of. We said, well, this is a good idea because now that's completed. In our CFI ACS Smart Study Pro, which we also have, we only did the ground portion of that. So it's all the technical subject area, like the oral, right? But we figured that, well, now we've got the same maneuvers or for commercial or for CFI. So we'll just put them together. So put the CFI and the commercial together as a bundle. So we put those together instead of two half price, well, the list price be 400. Instead of half price at 200, we put it at 175. So that's kind of a nice thing because then you got kind of have everything. And so anyway, the links are in there, and it looks like when you're in the course, I'll go quickly show it to you. Then I'll see if Rex is here in a second. This one. I'll go back to presentation, I promise, within 2 minutes or so. This is what they look like here. So then if I click on to access content for the commercial, then you'll see these are the areas of operation here. And if I click onto them, you'll see that there's a video. I did video as well. There's audio that you can download, right? You can download audio, and also any of the companion PDFs and things are in here. So it's quite nicely done. And you can download them, listen to them in your car, whatever you want to do. So that one is that one. And there's one again for CFI and commercial together bundle. And then there's also we're running a current special on our online course that's bundled with what I just said, the commercial CFI together. And so there's a link for that. It's $9.99 or something like that. But that's another thing. So when people want to get started on this stuff, this is the best. It's based on they're focused on Cessna, but really they're generic to all airplanes because I'm talking about them in general. So I don't think that I would say it was specific to Cessna. But yeah, I'm just thinking of as I don't think it's specific to Cessna. Okay, so let me go and make sure. Let me just go through here for a second. Just 1 second. Okay, I want to introduce Rex for 1 second. He is one of our boot camp instructors, and he will introduce himself. What we do is we have instructors that know our program, teach at CFI boot camp instructors for flight and ground, do this remotely. There's people who really understand the content. So if you're struggling with something, some for any kind of check ride, but for specifically CFI, then we can hook you up with that. And you may not need that much instruction. You don't know. A lot of the CFIs, they just hit a spot in the road, rough spot in the road. They go like, my CFI doesn't know this. Well, we know it. So I'm going to let Rex say hi. Go ahead, Rex, say hello.
There we go. Um, Very good. So I'm a CFI double I in the northern Utah area. I do a lot of things up here. Do gliders, do backcountry, do tailwheel, complex, all the things. Um, CFIG, CFI powered parachute as well. But I've got 3,400 hours of total time, 2,000 hours of dual given, 78 makes and models. I'm also a light sport repairman in all the categories, so airplane, weight shift control, powered parachute, and glider. All that to say that I have a fair amount of experience, just like Mike's saying. Us at CFI Boot Camp, we kind of are more experienced instructor. We've been around the block a few times. We're not, just trying to get off to the airlines. And, so if you have an instructor that's maybe headed to the airlines and, you need a little bit more attention, especially on the ground, remote ground instruction. That's what we're kind of offering today. So if you think you're interested in that, you think you could benefit from that, I'll be happy to meet with you or chat with you and see what we can do. And Nick will drop a link in the chat for you guys there where you can just click and fill out the onboarding documents, and then we can chat and see how we can help you out.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, Rex. Okay, back to the presentation. Sorry, here we go. Let's get on it because we got a bit to cover here. Okay, so I was talking about do things slowly, especially in the beginning. Don't just do an immediate VMC demonstration straight to VMC the very first time because you really need to gauge your students' reaction time, their panic level, their are they going to lock up a little bit or what's the deal? So if we ease into it slowly, we can gauge the reactions. Okay, so that's important. So here's what a throttle quadrant for multi-engine airplane looks like. Throttles, mixtures, sorry, props and mixtures here. So that's what those look like. And so when you fail an engine, guard the throttle quadrant to prevent unwanted feathering. So basically, when I shut down an engine, let's say I do it with a mixture over there, then as soon as the student goes grab for it, they go mixtures, but I have my hand there, so they can't bring that mixture control up. I just want them to touch drill it. Mixtures, props, throttles. My hand is there. Then they're going to go through the feathering process. And if you pull this blue lever back all the way, it goes into feather. So I want them to initially start the pullback, but my hand is going to be there to stop them from actually feathering. Okay, that's the number one thing. So I want to guard that quadrant. Then determine zero thrust for your airplane. It's usually around 12 to 15 inches of manifold pressure. That simulates a propeller that's not windmilling. So if you have a propeller out there, you failed the engine, it's windmilling. So you want to give the benefit the student to show what the performance is like for real. They would have already feathered it. So you set zero thrust. So about 12 to 15 inches. Usually you can look for your now failing an engine prior to half VMC on the takeoff roll. This to me can run you off the runway faster than about anything I know. So you're going to have to do this and in training, and you're also going to be tested on it. So the airplane's going to be rolling down the runway at some point, and then an engine's going to fail. Now on the ground, I'm going to fail the engine with mixture. Okay, so because that's closest usually to me. I have to reach over there. You can't really number one maybe not see it as well either. So and you have your hands up there, but you hands up on the throttles typically, but not on everything. So students' hands are up on the throttles, so I get to grab the mixture control free and clear, right? So so we're going to do that now as we go forward here. Don't let the speed get very high. So when it says you can do it up to 50% VMC, I'm going to tell you to do it right after the thing starts running. As soon as it starts running true, you want to make sure the nose wheel is running straight. That's number one. So that'll leave a mark. If not, and you want to see that as the engine starts creeping forward, that it's doing so straight down on the center line. It's not has a tendency already to veer one way or the other. And then at that point, I'm going to fail that engine, right, with the mixture. Now I already would have told ATC that I need time on the runway. I may have to restart on the runway, so I'm going to need some time for this. So typically, I want to arrange this in enough time where ATC will give plenty of space, okay, and preferably on a really wide runway if I can get it, right? Because if we start going off the runway, I can fix it. Okay, then the other thing we want to do is to fail the engine with mixture. If you fail with throttle too quickly, it's likely to backfire, and that's not really good for the exhaust system on the airplane. Then, as you bring that left mixture, so let's say you fail the left engine. As you bring that, if you bring that left engine down, I want you to be also bringing the right one down, but just farther out. So bring the left one down about halfway and start bringing the right one down. The reason for that is because if we get all the way to engine out on the left one and the airplane starts veering and the student's panicking or struggling, then I can pull the other mixture is right there. I've got it ready to, it's almost there anyway. And then I can, if the student does the right thing, I can push both mixtures up quickly and the engine won't actually quit or it'll restart really quickly because I got a little bit of speed on, prop still turning, that kind of thing. Okay, so maybe you followed that. That's what that means. Now for the VMC demonstration, the ugly VMC, not every country does this. So in Germany, this is not done. No, it's never, it's just stay away from it. Don't be getting close to that, right? Why are you going to get close to that? But we have to do it here. So make the first demonstrations that you're going to do where the student is going to do it. You're going to demonstrate it, which is fine to do. But then after that, again, we want to gauge the students' reaction time, right? How they're behaving towards this, right? So, so what we want to do then is, I will tell them, I want you to do everything very slowly, and then I'm going to have you not bank into the good engine. I'm going to have you keep the wings level. And what that's going to do is that's going to cause the airplane to lose directional control, yaw to the left or to the right, at a speed well above the real VMC speed. So it's not really at VMC, but it's behaving exactly like it is. So that will give me 10 knots of protection. So that's the first thing that I can do. The second thing then we can do is we can block the rudder track. So you can make it so they can't press it any farther, and that will then induce VMC or the equivalent of VMC, not the real VMC, at a point way earlier. So, and that's initial reaction. We're saying, look outside. We want to stop the yaw. When you see the yaw start going control, you don't have any more rudder. You would have been out of rudder. So you're going to have to do something. The VMC demonstration requires recovery right within 10 degrees. So make sure the student isn't trying to react too quickly. Again, all these things should be done deliberately and diligently, but not quickly. Okay. If we have any kind of stall indication, or if the yaw begins, then immediately close both throttles and lower the pitch attitude below the VMC speed. Because now remember, we have VMC because we have one engine operating, causing yaw towards the dead engine, towards the bad engine. So it's asymmetric thrust. So if we close both throttles, we have now zero asymmetric thrust. So we're not going to have any trouble with that, except for that we're going to go downhill, right? We're not going to be able to maintain altitude. So performance, yes, is going to suffer, but our ability to maintain control of the airplane and not stall it and have yaw, that's a spin, right? Is gonna be with closing both throttles. Okay, now going on a little further, here's some light twin considerations, and I love the chat. So make sure that some of the links have disappeared when some people joined Zoom. Make sure that you save the chat because a lot of good stuff comes in there. Okay. Now, light twin considerations. You're not gonna like this part, but I want to tell you about 80% of climb performance is lost when an engine fails. We went over why that was last week, but basically, if you imagine it, let's say you got 200 horsepower engines on each side. Oh, that's 400 horsepower. Let's say it takes 175 horsepower to keep the airplane level with both engines, right? Or so you have that much more to climb with from 175 to 400. But now you fail with that engine. Now you lost 200 horsepower. You only have 25 horsepower to climb on. So you lose way more than half, right? So that's reasons for it. So there's that. And then most light twins will not climb on a single engine. That's not always true, but it's true enough to say that we really have to be thinking about this. And it's rare that we can have a really good, solid go decision, which means that we're going to feather prop and continue our takeoff. We can do it in certain situations, but we really have to know the performance of this airplane. And a lot of twins won't even climb on a single engine, depending on the temperature, right? So after you calculate the accelerate go distance, which is the distance it takes for an airplane to achieve rotation speed, have an engine failure at exactly that moment, you just elect to go. You rotate, feather immediately, and reach an altitude and clean up, and then get an altitude of 50 feet. That's in a Duchess. That's around 5,000 feet, around that, more about a mile to get to 50 feet. So then we have to consider, okay, so what's after that? So okay, we got up out of the air. Now we're at 50 feet, a mile down the runway. The runway long gone, probably. And then what's in front of us? What do we have to outclimb? And will we be able to do that on a single engine? So now we need the single engine rate of climb calculation, right? To say, what are we going to get single engine? And is that enough for us to make a turn to get away from the bridge that's coming up or from a power line like a Palo Alto, these kind of things? So an example, for example, is let's say we calculated our single engine rate of climb be 200 feet per minute. And let's say our ground speed was 90 knots. That's a mile and a half a minute. So we're going to gain 133 feet of altitude every mile we go. That's as good as it's going to get. It's not going to get any better than that. So therefore, we have to look and see how far down the road we're going to be and what's in our way to elect whether a go is even remotely possible. So you think about that, how long is it going to take to get to 1,000 feet? We got to 50, right? And then we got there. That took a mile. Then in another mile, we got another 100 and some feet. So now we're at 180 feet. So we got a long way to go, it's on very low climb rate. Okay, so let's move on past. The lighter the airplane is loaded, the better the performance will be. I think you know that. So don't be packing that thing up with tons of fuel and a lot of people on training flights. Make it as light as you can. That's safe for the fuel consumption that you have, okay? The fuel requirements that you need, I should say. Now, in older twins, the fuel management system can be a bit tricky. So that's another thing. Some of these airplanes, like I flew a BE-55 and a Traveler, and they have one fuel gauge for each tank, left, right, but there's 4 tanks. All right, there's 4 tanks. There's left mains, right mains, left aux, right aux. But you have a gauge if you got to take a switch and flip it and say, now I want to see the fuel in the auxiliary tank. So if you're not careful, you could be flying on some tank and thinking you got a lot of gas in it when you're looking at the fuel quantity in the other tank. So that's another consideration, is fuel systems can be tricky. Few twins were ever spin tested. There was a few. The Duchess was spin tested, believe it or not by Raytheon, but by NASA. And so the Army, U.S. Army, did spin testing in the Baron, the B-55. So we have data on those airplanes, but we don't have much data, if any data, on other airplanes. So there's that. Now, the emergency checklist spin recovery procedure is a recommendation. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. It depends on how quickly you get on it. And pair doesn't work. And if you're thinking your spin solution is always pair, I think you need to get that out of your head. Because look in the emergency checklist and see what it says. The Duchess says that you were to close both throttles, right? Don't use aileron. Basically, PA, aileron's neutral. Then elevator, rudder opposite direction of the spin. Then it says to briskly apply elevator full forward and do that as all simultaneously as possible. And that's, if you look at the spin testing I did, that's how they did it. And that worked. But if you do it the other way around, where you're waiting for one event, the next event, it may not work. So even the Cessna 172 spin recovery procedure, people get wrong. It's pair, but it's got a little hiccup in it. So you know what the hiccup is? It's this one, I'll tell you. So power idle, ailerons neutral. It says rudder opposite direction of the spin. Now listen, it says as soon as the rudder hits the stop, bring the elevator briskly forward. It doesn't say wait until the spin stops, then bring it forward, because it may not stop spinning. You want to get the elevator forward so you can get the pitch attitude such well that the wind changes and you can get access to the tail, so you can stop the spin. So that may not work, right? So make sure that you read the emergency spin recovery procedure for your airplane. And if it doesn't have one, all you got is pair. Okay? Now let's talk about MEI aeronautical knowledge, what you'll need to know for this test. And hopefully I've given you some practical sort of things as we've gone through to, we can slow down just a little bit because we're getting good. We got a lot of people out. Let's take some pictures of us here. So we'll get that going. Actually, we'll do that here in a second at the end. And I'll be able to show you on my phone what everything looks like. So you'll need to know how VMC is determined for certification, right? So there's a speed, the speed at which we lose direction control, that's in a specific configuration. We talked about that 2 power hours ago, about how that was determined. And that is not going to be your VMC speed for today, for your flight for today. That's certification speed. So depending on how the airplane's configured, the temperature, the density, that speed is going to vary. It's a red radial line on the airspeed indicator, but that red radial line is going to change. It's going to change by weight. It's going to change by power. It's going to change by change by. So we have to really understand that and say our VMC speed is going to be in this area, at least here, right? So we have an idea of that. And no, it's not going to occur right at the red line. So also know then what those factors are, how VMC changes with what. Like if you don't bank into the good engine, I told you, the VMC will occur about 10 knots over. That's the real speed. Then if you put the gear down, VMC will happen at a lower speed because it has a stabilizing effect. So there's many things. So those things are all in the airplane flying handbook and the chapter on multi-engine flying. So have a look at those. Also, flying light twins safely is an AC that's out there that you want to get that and kind of know what's in there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of good comments. I like the comments because they're always use a runway that goes downhill. I like that, like Leadville. Also, make sure that you can explain the relationship of VMC and stall for non-turbocharged or non-jet powered piston airplanes, right? Because as you go higher, the airplane loses power, right? And so there can be a case, it will happen at a particular altitude, where if you have a lot of power, let's say near sea level, then you got a turning force, right? And the turning force is such that you start pulling back and all of a sudden you run out of rudder. And you run out of rudder at the VMC speed. And if you go slower, the airplane's going to roll off, right? But there's a case, and so you'll see that. You go, oh, man, I got to fix that right away. That's not a good thing to be happening right now. But there's an altitude at which you have lower power than at sea level on the good engine. And so the turning force is going to be less. So you're going to hit stall before you get there. So you're going to hear the stall warning horn. And if you stall the airplane, this airplane will go on its back and it will spin. And that's what it will do. And it won't take but a second to do it. So if you hear any indication of stall whatsoever, it's a good reason to pre-flight your stall warning system, right? Some airplanes, they may not have it, in which case, boy, okay. But really be careful about that. The other thing you'll need to know is that explain systems on the airplane and explain them using both the normal and emergency checklists. Go through the normal checklist and say, why are we doing this in the runway? What's happening? Why are we selecting this tank? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? What does it mean when the magnetos drop this number of RPM? What is happening to cause that to happen? And then testing things. And then go to the emergency checklist and say, when this emergency is happening, what is these actions? What are they doing systems-wise? What's happening when they were instructed to make this decision to do this thing? What is it doing? Right? You say, what's the action? So use the emergency checklist, normal checklist. In addition to talking about the systems, say, what's happening here? What can we control? What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? Maybe nothing, and maybe something, right? So it's kind of good to know that. Moving on, read and understand the limitations, the supplement section of your POH. The very first time I get into an airplane, before I get into an airplane, I'm afraid of them, just in case you didn't know. So I'm happy to say that. When I'm not afraid of them after a while, but in the beginning, I'm not very comfortable with them. And I know because they can kill me. And they can kill me, probably go something I didn't understand about it. And then I got some Yahoo sitting next to me checking me out who probably doesn't know it either, right? I'm like, oh, no. I said, Daddy going to understand the whole thing. Okay, just so you know, right? Papi going to understand, entiendo todo. I'm going to understand everything, right? So that means I'm going to go straight to the limitation section. And I want to see, this is the kind of stuff that can kill me. And then the next thing, thanks for the first time in attendance. Great. Anyway, the next thing would be I want to read the emergency checklist. All right, I want to read that. And then I also want to read the systems, and I want to go to supplements. Because normal procedures don't really matter to me until I understand what's going to kill me. Right? And then when I get a good handle on that, then I say, okay, if everything goes good, we're going to be in the normal section. So let's look at that. And so we look at it, and we look at it a lot. And then I go to the supplement section. Because there you'll find out things like, do you know you may have to pre-flight your autopilot? You may have to pre-flight your autopilot. And it may be a required thing. So that means that before you can use it, you may have to pre-flight it. So got one of our people come into the booth. He wanted to come up and say hi. So anyway, That's only happened a few times already. That's fun. So that's why we have our security detail info. So be sure you read those limitations, and in particular the POH. There's a lot of things in the supplement section that are very important. And some airplanes have restrictions for altitudes at which you can do VMC demonstrations, like the Duchess. It comes to mind 4,000 feet. You can't do a VMC demonstration before 4,000. Now I'm here to tell you, at 4,000 feet on a hot day in Duchess, you're likely to get stalled before you're likely to see loss of directional control. So the question then, my question is, when you're doing a VMC demonstration and you're not doing it to the full Monty, are you really doing a full VMC demonstration? Could you get away with doing it at 3,000 feet if you blocked the rudder and if you didn't hold 5 degrees of bank into the good engine or zero side slip? Could you? And I think probably yes, but that's my take. But I'm not giving you advice. I'm just telling you what they say. So okay, more. So then what can you do with the certificate once you have it? Well, you can do initial certification training and endorsements for private pilot, airplane multi-engine. You think you want to do one of those? I did one. Believe it or not, I did. My only one wasn't it was a pressurized turbocharged Skymaster, a Riley rocket conversion. And it was a private pilot. He owned it, and it took us 200, almost $300 to get through. But you can do an initial rating. So he had airplane multi-engine land as the first rating. Then you can also do a commercial pilot certificate, AMEL, either as an initial or as an add-on. You can do an ATP. You can help train an ATP. There's no specific training required there, but there's no endorsements for that unless they fail. Then you can give them one. You can give an additional category class other than ATP. So if they want a commercial multi, you can do that. Right? I saw no VMC then. Aha. There you go. Okay. So you can do that other than ATP. So you can do that for private, or you can do it for commercial. The additional. So you can do quite a few things here. You can also give a CFI training initial in a multi-engine airplane if you meet the qualifications required. AMEL. If it's under 61.195 that you've held the certificate for a particular period of time or recommended a certain number of people or whatever those cases are. We'll talk about that later. I'm just running out of time just a little bit. And I wanted to introduce someone from SAFE here in a second. You can also do an additional CFI. You can do an MEI as an additional rating. You do that right out of the gate. Okay, and you can also give a flight review in a multi-engine airplane. And you can give an IPC if you're a CFII. I believe that's kind of the end of it. Now, you can look at all the endorsements that you can give. They'll be in 6165 kilo here. That's where they're going to be at. And that's where you can look to see what we can do, right? All that information should be in there. I should have a slide here. Some facts. You'll need 15 hours PIC in a multi-engine airplane to take your Checkride. Most people, when they finish their Checkride for commercial multi, they have either 0 or just the Checkride as PIC time. So you're going to need a fair amount of time. This rating doesn't take that long. It takes about 7 to 8 hours to do it. So you're going to be doing extra time because you need 15 hours PIC. That's the regulations. Also, if you're going to train on a multi-engine airplane for a rating, a certificate of rating, you need 5 hours in the specific make and model. Now, if you're just giving a flight review or an IPC, or you're doing a currency flight or something like that, you don't have to have the 5 hours make and model. But if you're giving for a certificate of rating, you do. And it's also not required for those things. Now, let's talk about 2 things. I need you to join SAFE because it's a wonderful organization. And this is Erin, and she's going to say hi. Let me just talk for a second about SAFE really quickly. Right there, you're fine.
Hi, I'm Erin, and it's been a busy week. I'm from SAFE. It's been a busy week here at the air show, and we're in Hangar A, booth 61. If you're here at Sun and Fun, come visit us. Tonight, from 5 to 6-ish, we have a CFI roundtable and ice cream social that is free. Come join us. It's after the exhibitor booths close and before the nighttime air show. We'd love to have you come join us. We have great CFI insurance hookups. We do continuing education kind of things. And we'd love to come have you talk to us. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Erin. All right. So last little bit is wage credit should be in there now. Get that. And also then join also the CFI study group here. It's on Facebook. I think you really enjoy that group. It's a wonderful group for CFIs and training. I can't really speak highly enough about that group. And Rex is part of that group, and Dorothy, which I really just I thought Dorothy was going to be here. I have not met Dorothy, only online, and that's going to be a visit one day. That's for sure. Okay, and they also do a Tuesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time to 6, a free Zoom meeting call. So join and that they ask questions. There's so many of us in there can answer your questions, and it costs you anything. Okay, so I'm hopefully this rang the bell for you. I want to thank you for showing up. We're going to close out the show, and we're going to come back after the show for the after party, the after show. And yeah, that's kind of it. And if you're so inclined, buy a bunch of stuff. Can I say it out loud? I did it, right? I'm kidding you. Whatever you want to do. We're here for everybody. All right. I'm going to close out. So I'm going to see you next Saturday live from Miami Beach. And this has been the 283rd episode of The Power Hour.
From CFI Boot Camp in Miami Beach, Florida, this is the Power Hour. Welcome.